Kia ora whānau. So, I just got done playing the Mortal Kombat 1 pre-order beta. Now, despite the fact it is a pre-order beta, I was able to get it for free. Now, I unfortunately did not ask for my friend's permission to say his name on my channel so I could properly thank him, but you know who you are, and if you're watching this video, my friend, thank you, I am blessed, and I do not deserve you. Now, anywho, going into the actual beta itself. Now, for the most part, I had a pleasant experience, and there were a few issues that I had with it, but I'll get into that later. Firstly, I'd like to talk about the positive things with this beta. Now, in terms of accessibility options for people who are a bit hard of hearing and have visual impairment, there are options for that to make it easier for them to play, so I thought that was rather neat. Now, the actual gameplay itself with the cameos and whatnot, for the most part, those actually functioned really well. I was able to get in, play some matches, and it was a pretty okay time. And I say pretty okay time because the online and everything, it's a bit of a mixed bag. I had solid connections for the most part, but due to the fact this is a NRS game, this game, more than any other fighting game I have played, there were an abundance of Wi-Fi players. I had about 6 connections with people who were using wired, but the majority of players were mostly using Wi-Fi. So I pretty much had no choice but to accept those matches if I actually wanted to get anything done. But around the time I did start figuring all that out, I mainly stuck to just playing the single player towers mode, you know, the classic arcade mode. More on that later. But for now, I just want to talk about the characters I spent the most time with, which was Li Mei, Johnny Cage, Sub-Zero, and Kenshi. So I had fun with those characters, and Li Mei was definitely my favorite. Not just in terms of how she plays, but I also did enjoy her moves and how they animated. She was one of the more fluent characters, and I loved her charging knee attack, where she followed up with several punches. That is my favorite move in the whole game, especially when you pair her with Jax, who was my preferred cameo choice, not just because I like Jax as a character, but also because I smoke cigars, he smokes cigars, so it's kind of the rule that cigar smokers have to follow. If there's a character that has a stogie in his mouth, you gotta play that character. And speaking of playing, I do have to answer the question, how does it feel compared to the other games? Well, I'll say this. I definitely understand what Max and Steve from Your Video Games were saying, how this game sort of feels like MK11.5. And that is both a good thing and a bad thing. This game definitely has a lot of the high detailed character models and whatnot from MK11, but it's also got a very good pace that is on par with the MK9 movement as well. Okay, well, no, movement and pacing are two different things, but basically you've got MK9 movement where you can cancel your animations with either just a regular attack, or you can cancel it with the block button. So you can do some dash blocking to get in, and I was able to do this quite a bit online, which threw quite a bit of my opponents off. And it threw them off a little bit too much. I actually got quite a few rage quitters, more on that later. Your variety of options with cameos is also really solid. Now, even though I did prefer using Jax, he really only worked out for me whenever I used Li Mei. When I played Johnny Cage, I went with either Kano or Frost, and that worked out much better for me. So, I will say the cameos, there are going to be some that are stronger than others. So far, a lot of people are saying that Kano is the stronger one, but for me personally, I was able to get some work done with Jax whenever I used Li Mei. And with Johnny Cage, I stuck with mostly using Frost whenever I played him. Several players that tried the beta have been comparing the cameos to the Marvel vs. series, though me personally, I'd compare it to another game that I spent a lot of time with at launch, and that was BlazBlue Cross Tag Battle. The way your cameo options work in this game are pretty similar to that game, with one exception, that of course being movement. So the best way I can describe the overall movement in Mortal Kombat 1 with your regular character and the cameo character is that you are mobile while also being immobile. There are certain moves that allow you to advance on the opponent with a certain assist, but then you've got other assists where your characters just hang back and let the cameo character do their thing. Whereas in cross-tag battle, you could move freely no matter what you did, with your defensive option, your option that allowed you to do a combo, or one that just did solid damage. And for the most part, I found it very awkward. Now, it does take some getting used to, that is a given. This is a new game, so of course there are gonna be some things you will still have to figure out. But for what I was able to figure out, I found myself using one certain cameo assist more than the other, making the other options kind of redundant. And that's a bit of a shame because I did enjoy using the cameos, but it's just, well, some assists with the characters are clearly going to be stronger than the others, so while I did want to try a variety of things with the cameo, I found myself really only doing one thing with those cameos. And that honestly disappointed me a little bit because there were certain setups in the game where you are forced to use just one thing. And that kind of takes away from your variety of options where you are forced to only do one approach. But overall, the approaches are pretty okay. I will say that, it's okay. I'll elaborate more later. But first I need to talk about another positive. Let me see. Yes, here's another positive. Katana. I actually did like the way she played in this game. The way she tosses her fans and how she does her flippity dippities. That's the best way I can describe it. That worked out pretty well. For the most part, I was able to do some Sonya Blade stuff with her, but that was more so in the classic towers. And, okay, I'll just get into this right now. Figuring out stuff in this game was annoying. Alright, I just have to be honest, it was very annoying. Why? Because in this game, there wasn't a dedicated practice mode like with the Tekken 8 or Street Fighter 6 beta. If you wanted to figure stuff out, you had to play the classic towers and just put the AI on the easiest difficulty, so the AI did bugger all so you could figure some stuff out. And when you were getting some stuff going, the AI would randomly combo break, more on that later. And while I typically don't play these characters, Sub-Zero and Kenshi were pretty fun. Kenshi was definitely the hardest one to use because of his Sento stance, and Sub-Zero, I will say, being able to do combos off a jump-in overhead punch immediately into a dive kick, and then following up with a certain string and then cancelling into the ground freeze, that was really fun to do, especially if you've got all three bars and the frost cameo, and your opponent is unable to combo break, linking string into special, string into special. This is the type of fun shit that was missing from MK11, and I'm happy to say it's back. And I only played Sub-Zero and Kenshi in the classic towers, so I had a lot of fun there, despite the fact that I had to put the AI on easy to figure it out. Okay, now, I'm gonna get into the really negative stuff now, because once I figured out all the stuff I felt like I needed to, that's where a lot of the glaring flaws started to break through the cracks. First off, with the modes that were actually available to you, online and classic towers. Now, as I said, no dedicated training mode so you could figure stuff out, and that was very annoying considering that the cameos will come in and combo break whenever the AI has 3 bars. That was extremely annoying. And yes, I know, it's a tower mode, arcade, the AI is gonna fight back regardless of the difficulty you put it on. That said though, all I wanted to do was just have fun and figure stuff out. That's the whole point of these betas, so you can figure it out and test the online and so forth. But going back to what I said about Street Fighter 6 and Tekken 8, what was here on offer? I gotta say, if you pre-ordered this, you would feel pretty ripped off considering what was here. Now, I'm very lucky that I was able to play this for free, and thank goodness that I did because, oh boy, where do I begin? First off, you already know if you've been following my channel for a while, that my biggest problem with Mortal Kombat 1 is the animation. A lot of the animations in this game is also very MK11 like. Now, as far as they look and how they move, I will say it is technically better than MK9 and MKX. However, those games, they didn't rely on facial motion captures and stuff like that in order to look as realistic as possible. So because they looked slightly cartoonish, they still had that fantasy element to mask the animation. And because Mortal Kombat X moves at a blistering fast pace, it's very easy to ignore those animation flaws. But here, for the most part, characters like Li Mei, Sub-Zero, and Fire God Liu Kang, they look really damn good. However, when I was playing Kenshi and Johnny Cage, fucking hell, they looked so damn slow. Like, especially with Johnny Cage, he's supposed to be one of the more flashy fighters, and he's just like bam, 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 especially with the older games. But in this one, fucking hell, a lot of people say he's robotic. No, he's not. Instead, it looks like he's fighting underwater with elastic strings holding back each of his limbs. Especially that little elbow nudge that he does, that just looks like it's gonna tickle you. That doesn't look like it's gonna hurt. So yeah, in my opinion, Johnny Cage is still the worst animated character in this game, which sucks to say because he's got the most personality, and that's what allows him to shine through. And his animations don't complement that. And like his little standing 2, that's supposed to be a palm strike, but that doesn't look like a palm strike. It just looks like he's giving you a high five, and it's not a very good high five. And don't get me started on that new awful shadow effect he has that looks more like a swarm of flies with some stink lines. Man, they could have given him a golden Hollywood effect, but nope, instead he has bugs following him. And Kenshi, now for the most part I thought he looked really cool, aside from the fact that I thought he moved a bit too slow, but my unique problem with him is the stance, his Sento stance. Now, the functionality of it, not so much, but the stance switch button is still in this game as it was in the previous games. All this time has passed, and all I can think is, with these stance switch characters, why not just have them switch stances with the stance button? Instead, Kenshi's Sento stance is done with quarter circle back 1. That's how he switches between stances. And I know some of you are gonna say, oh no, it's done that way so that you don't just push one button to automatically activate and make it broken. No, it won't be broken. If anything, it'll make it better. And it won't be broken, because the startup animation for going into the stance and going out of the stance, where he draws the sword and puts the sword back, it has a very long startup. So I don't understand why it's a quarter circle motion for him to swap stances. Just map it to the stance switch button. That'll actually make the stance button actually be useful. And going back to Johnny Cage, he already does something like that. You can use the stance switch button to taunt, and that's tied into his hype gauge. That gives the button a purpose for the character. Do the exact same thing for Kenshi. Unfortunately, I'm not done, because now I'm gonna get into my major problems with the gameplay. Yes, I know I just talked about the animations and whatnot, but there are some unique problems in this game that really stuck out to me, and the first one is the up block. Now, the up block has a very unique problem. In this game, you can do a lot of cross-ups, and one of my favorite methods is to jump over and do a cross-up. I was able to catch out my opponent because they were up blocking. Normally, you would buffer in a jump back motion so that you can get out of it, or you can just backdash. A lot of the times, however, you can accidentally push up while you're still holding the block button, and you are stuck. So yeah, you can literally put yourself in block stun. If you're just holding the button, your character will switch sides and block it the other way. Unless you accidentally do an up block and uh-oh, you are stuck there. Now normally that would not be an issue, but the problem is that it is an issue. And the thing with this game is that it has all of these new things that just don't make sense. For example, there is also another move in this game where if you manage to do a counter hit uppercut, very similar to Mortal Kombat 11, which gave you a crushing blow to do a follow-up. In this game, if you manage to duck a throw or a high attack, and you uppercut, and you can spend 2 bars to jump up and do a combo. That is useless! I did not see anyone use that at all. The up block was useless, and so was that counter hit follow-up from an uppercut. I don't get why that is there. What was wrong with just doing a counter hit uppercut and just being able to follow up with a regular combo? Or if you are gonna make that a thing, just make it that you spend 1 bar, especially since the damage you get after it is pretty damn pitiful. Also, in terms of the online, I can see my opponent's connection and their ping, but I have to go back to the other betas yet again. Whenever I was playing Street Fighter 6, I could see where my opponent was from. And when I played the Tekken 8 beta, I was able to see their connection, the console they were on. I could see where they were in Korea, Japan. That's another thing too. In Tekken 8, it specified whereabout in the Asian areas you were playing. I could tell between Korea and Japan. And there was also Europe and North America. I could see where my opponents were coming from. I had no idea where the fuck anyone was in this beta. I mean, were they in America? Were they in my own country? Were they on the moon? I have no fucking clue. Why could I not see where my opponent was from when I was fighting them? And that sucks because the opponents I actually got were pretty good, but it's just like, where the hell are you? Also, NetherRealms, your games are beautiful to look at, so let me enjoy that in my own time. Now I know some people are going to get sick of me for doing this, especially the NRS fans, but in Tekken 8, I could just chill in the character select screen and just admire the music and the characters. I wanted to do that in this game, but unfortunately, you could only look at the screen while you were going online. And I don't want to waste my opponent's time while I'm just admiring the graphics and presentation. They want to have a match. So just let me pick the character first and then match me up with an opponent. Is that so difficult to do? And this is the same problem they had in the MK1 beta. It's just like, come on, just come on. Oh well, alright, I better end it there. Look, this beta was okay, and there's a solid game here, but it clearly needs a lot more. And yes, it is a beta, but the problem is the full game is just around the corner. It's gonna be releasing next month. And these problems are still going to be there because of how close the release window is. And I certainly do hope they do get fixed because there is a game here to be enjoyed. But for me, well, as I said, I'm glad I got this for free. Thank you so much to the bro who gave me a beta code for this because he just likes my channel and he knows that I really love fighting games. But if you were looking forward to this game, my friend, and because you do ask me about these a lot, sorry to disappoint you, but this disappointed me. However, if you're someone who's looking forward to this game and you're gonna love playing it, then by all means, you do you. Enjoy this game to the fullest, because if you're someone who's going to enjoy this game, then yeah, just go right in there. This is just me expressing my opinions and my problems. You do not have to pay attention to me at all. But if you did, thank you so much for listening, and let me know if you agree, disagree, if you think I'm a piece of shit, whatever. That's why we do these things in the first place. I'm someone who likes Mortal Kombat, and I wanted to look forward to this so much. As I said, Li Mei was my favorite character, and I just wanted to keep playing her. But there were so many other glaring issues in the way that took me out of it. So I'm just gonna end it there. Thank you so much for watching, and I will catch you on the next one, whānau. Yep, ka kite.